What is up, Terps fans? Welcome into another Fear the Podcast. I'm Matt Modderno. I'm really pleased to be joined here by Greg Waddell, one half of Sleepers Media, or more than a half now because you guys are bringing in a lot of other talent. Greg, I'm a big fan of the channel, as I told you beforehand, but I think you guys do the best job collectively of covering college basketball as a whole. Obviously, a lot of Big 10 specific stuff in there too, but just making it fun and different and unique. And it's not just like regurgitating groupthink over and over again. So thanks for keeping it fresh and keeping me entertained here in the summer months, especially.
Man, that means a lot, Matt. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here. This should be fun.
Yeah. So the premise today, everybody, we've talked a lot about the coaching change and the hire of Buzz Williams and all these things, and we really just want to go through and just kind of see where, he ultimately, uh, like fits into the overall pecking order of Big 10 coaches. We'll do a little bit more here on the channel over the summer on just where Maryland fits in overall in the greater Big 10 landscape, but want to stick specifically to coaches here. Maybe Greg, just initial thoughts on the Buzz Williams hire for Maryland overall.
I like Buzz. I like his teams probably more than I like Buzz, if that makes sense. And
Okay.
I don't have a great reason for that. And I think that's all that really matters is if you're putting a good product on the floor, that's all we should really care about.
Sure.
But I think like in general, when the shift happened, when it became apparent that Kevin Willard was going to leave in the fashion that he was, I think outside of going after the type of hires that we saw last cycle that worked for Louisville and Kentucky and even Michigan, being like these up and coming sort of new era flashy upside coaches, I kind of liked that Maryland went the opposite route because I think the reality with this cycle was most of those guys were unavailable.
Yeah.
Like the best names in this cycle are more lottery ticket type hopefuls like Indiana, Darren DeVries, Ben McCollum at Iowa. They're all good coaches. There's reasons to believe in them, but I don't know that any of them necessarily came in with sort of the upside point blank that like a Pat Kelsey did last cycle. So I think in some senses, I really like it because I think with Buzz Williams, you know what you're getting. You're getting a team that's going to be great in certain areas. We know they're going to rebound. We know they're going to be tough. We know it's going to be a really appealing place for a shot-making guard to go to. And we've already seen that resonate with the Darius Adams pickup late and even a Riquise Passmore, who I've always been really high on. So I think in the long run, Maryland fans will be very happy that they got a guy who's going to be ready to compete quickly, and the expectation every year should be NCAA tournament appearances. My question would be, that didn't happen at Texas A&M beyond making it. And I think you go back through the histories of Maryland, you know this better than I do. We've seen Maryland fans sour on just making the tournament. And that scares me a little with Buzz because that's sort of what I expect from him at this point.
When he was kind of first brought up as like a lead candidate, I was not in on the move. I thought, why are we going all in on like budget Bruce Pearl at this point, or off-brand Bruce Pearl, sort of how I thought of him. And I'm just also like an inherently petty person. So now that Willard's out the door, I'm all in on Buzz and Buzz's success. Just what's your take on between the two of them? Is this an upgrade, a downgrade, sort of a lateral move at best?
I would say at worst, it's a lateral move. But I think I need to preface this by saying, relative to other people in the industry that I've talked to, I am much lower on Kevin Willard than anybody else is. And I don't think there's a ton of upside with Kevin Willard long term, to be honest. Like, I think this year was a little bit of an anomaly. He may be self-aware enough to know that, and that might be part of why he's tried to strike off his 16 appearance ever instead of trying to build on it. The reasons to doubt Kevin Willard are well documented at this point. Again, I'm preaching to the choir on the way he left and what that says about him as a person. It's not the guy I would want leading my program. I don't expect him to go to Villanova and like constantly put out top 20 teams. In fact, I think his offseason at Villanova has been wildly underwhelming after taking the job. I think Buzz Williams has done more at Maryland immediately than I would have expected from even Kevin Willard at Maryland. So between the two, I would rather have Buzz Williams. I hope that Maryland fans can find some solace in that, I guess. But ultimately, you know this too. It's going to come down to just putting a winning product on the floor. And the hardest part of Buzz's job, I think, immediately is he's coming off of the best Maryland season in quite a while. Like
The bar's pretty high at the moment. Yeah.
yeah, and no offense to Kevin, but like it felt like an anomaly. Not that he couldn't have done it again, but that last year's team was so unique and so special and so singular that it's just a hard time to be the guy filling in the footsteps. And I think Buzz could put a really good team together this year that still feels underwhelming coming off the heels of last year. And hopefully he's given a little more time, because if he builds on what I like with this roster, year 2 and year 3 could get better and better.
Buzz has been historically a slow starter, I think, in a lot of his stops. So just given how bare the cupboard was, Maryland was kind of a couple years behind the times from an NIL perspective and things like that. So I think if they could make the tournament this year, I'll be satisfied with that overall. And that's a building point from there. Like if at the low point you can get them back, even just like, I don't know, win a play-in game or something at a minimum, I think I'll feel pretty good about things overall. So that was the right answer, Greg. You passed the test. We're allowed to keep going with the podcast here. So good call. All right, so let's get into the meat of it. We're going to go through and just see really where Buzz slots in against the rest of the coaches here in the Big 10. So we'll do a draft style. I think we can just go back and forth. I don't know if it needs to be a snake draft, since we're not building teams or anything.
Sure.
Greg, would you like to start us off here with the first pick in the Big 10 coaches draft?
So like all drafts we do on our channel, I obviously have questions before we begin this.
Please fire away.
That's some ground rules for me. Okay. Are we drafting the coach you would hire for your program right now? Are we talking like future trajectory as a big part of this? Are we talking to win one game right now? Because that will change my answer quite a bit.
Sure. No, I think that's a great point. I was almost leaving it intentionally ambiguous to see if we would get totally different answers because of it. But I think this is to build your program moving forward.
Okay.
The one game, I think there are certain guys that run a little bit better stuff and things like that. But I'm thinking whole sort of spectrum of things here, building things up, keep you moving forward. Yeah, I think we can discount like age for like a Tom Izzo. I wouldn't put him 8th on the list because I don't think he'll be here long term or something like that. But who would you want, manning the ship for your program? And just kind of given all the things that they bring to the table.
All right, I'm going to take, I think, who the consensus 1A would be if we polled 100 listeners of this. I'm going to take Matt Painter off the board first. He's certainly at the height of his powers, but I've loved the way his recruiting has picked up. It's something I begged for him after the first title appearance. I don't want to see him go after all the underrated kids anymore. He can still pick his spots with that. But Purdue needs to catch up to speed in the NIL era. And they have this offseason, the way he's consolidated funds to keep Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn out of the transfer portal. They're going after 5 stars and some of the best players in the country at the prep levels. I think they're going to see the reward for the success they've had. And point blank, X's and O's wise, I think he's the best coach in the league by a long shot. So give me Painter 1-1.
Yeah, to me, he's the guy who does the best of kind of everything here. He does find the diamonds in the rough, but they're also, like you said, getting in on more big guys. And even if they don't land them all, at least just hearing Purdue in the Final Four of more top 50 guys, I think is kind of a departure from where they've been. I think if he goes any lower than 2 on this list, I'm just going to get like murdered from people listening to this. So I think I'm going to go Izzo 2 here just to get him off the board. Even what they've done the last 2 years, like I did not see last year's team coming personally. I thought they'd be kind of, a little lower. Good, but not great, running the table for most of the Big 10 slate there. So just give me Izzo for however long he's got left.
It's a good pick. His resume speaks for itself. I have questions on how singular the success was last year due to how great Jace Richardson was. Okay. But we'll learn that this year because, I won't be surprised to see them overachieve and win the whole league again. Also wouldn't be surprised to see a departure from it and go back to the middle of the pack finishes they had in the early NIL era, but not a bad pick whatsoever. I'll make the homer pick from there. Give me Dusty May. I think he would be lower on the list if we were talking win one game. But I think when you factor in what does the next 10 years look like, I think you could argue he had the best offseason of any coach in the country this year. And he's modernized the whole approach. It seems like Michigan's got him locked up. Like if he wanted to leave, the Indiana job was there for him and he turned it down. But I think the most impressive part for me was like Juwan Howard had some success at Michigan. It was a disaster late, but he won the league. He made a couple second weekend appearances, and he still could not navigate the administrative side of the job. It seemed like a death trap for coaches. And Dusty May came in and just has made it look so easy. There's been zero admissions issues, zero problems that Juwan ran into. And I think it's overwhelmingly because Dusty May is a competent human being beyond a basketball coach. So I'll take Dusty at 2. And I'll be honest, those were my top 2 on the board, Painter and Dusty.
Yeah, that's the definitive top 3 I had there was with those guys. So I'm not too shocked with the way that played out here. Overall, I think during the Juwan Howard, Mark Turgeon spat, I definitely would have taken Juwan Howard in that fight. If you have to pick in a fight, though, Dusty May or Buzz Williams, who you got?
Oh, Buzz, easy. Dusty is a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, agreed. I like it. This is where it got a little weird for me on the board. I think you could make a couple different arguments for guys here. They're always like a little under the radar, but then also somehow I feel like they're always slightly overrated at the same time too, and that's Oregon. I feel like I'm going to do something I'm going to largely regret here and go Dana Altman at 4. Just I don't really like their team, but ultimately I feel like they'll end up pretty good, but then not quite as good as the national media will say they are at different points in the season here. But the man's been to 2 Elite Eights. I think that's as impressive as anybody else on the list here in one Final Four. And he's done it at places you don't really maybe expect somebody to be able to do that. So I think this is a guy that could jump into any program and have at least a reasonable amount of success.
Yeah.
Is that a terrible pick, Greg?
It's not a terrible pick. So I have a group of 5 that I would pluck from next that I think are all like high floor but relative high ceiling coaches. Altman's been so good in like elimination games. Like if you go back through the history, conference tournaments, he's awesome on one-day prep. NCAA tournament stuff, his teams have certainly made runs when they weren't even expected to. And I think we might look back in a couple years and wonder how much the first year with the West Coast programs was sort of a getting used to it year, because I think you saw it affect UCLA last year too. And once they get more comfortable with that process, we might just see them hit the ground running. So yeah, good pick. I like that. I'm torn between a couple next, and I think I'm gonna land on one that I feel dicey on. I'm gonna take Brad Underwood.
Okay. I like it.
So I've called this last little era, Michigan State threw a big wrench in it, but I think the last 4 or 5 years has been the Painter Underwood era. I think those two have consistently put out top 4 teams in this league year in and year out, done it with different core groups of guys and doing it in different ways, constantly evolving with how they're approaching this. And you just know, like if Brad Underwood's your coach right now, you're making the tournament at minimum. And you have some upside. You're always going to have some NBA talent coming through. I don't agree with his approach always. I don't love the foreign heavy approach, to be honest. But I just think he has a really high floor. So give me Brad.
Yeah, that was the one I struggled with. And you've been nailing this, I think, on your guys' show, just about the I mean, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also true with just sort of the ceiling and them not really reaching it, and if that's acceptable or not for them long-term, and the message that extension sends. I've been enjoying that and Illinois fans' reaction to that. So, yeah, I had him in this general range too, but the ceiling is a little capped for me. And the next other couple guys in this tier, I feel like have just like broken through a little bit more. But with Underwood, I think it's only a matter of time before they get a little luck. Having to play Loyola Chicago that year, like they've been screwed a couple times. So I'm not mad at that one at all. I'm doing this next one begrudgingly because I just thought they were like really boring to watch last year, and I wouldn't love to watch them overall if this were my team. But just again, the floor is really high. If you have a Mick Cronin coach team, it's another guy that's made a Final Four. He's made a bunch of Sweet 16s. It's hard to argue that it works, even if it's just like maybe not like an overly enjoyable experience overall.
Yep. There were 2 names when you started talking through the boring nature to it that I thought of, and you took one of the 2. I'm going to take the other one next. Greg Gard is like silently an awesome coach,
Yep.
and it's not sexy, but I think at this point, like, he has a very proven track record of knowing how to win in this league, and that matters. I was very wowed by how good they were last year because point blank, I didn't think John Tanji was all that special coming in. You saw the split of like AJ Storr, who was legitimately very good for Greg Gard, going and playing for Bill Self and having a horrible season. Like, that should be a wake-up call to everybody that Greg Gard knows what he's doing. I like their ads this summer too. Like Nick Boyd, I think is going to be really good for them. So, yeah, I'll take Gard, even though it's so gross watching Wisconsin basketball.
They were like slightly more close to 21st century basketball this year. So I think at least maybe he's moving in the right direction if you got to watch that on a more consistent basis here. Just spoiler fans for Maryland fans listening to this that are probably tweaking right now that Buzz has fallen this far in the draft already. This is where I enter the Buzz Williams range of this draft.
Same here.
So I think you could make the argument for the next couple guys. I ultimately just kind of can't leave this dude off ahead of him, unfortunately, and that's Eric Musselman. Just given the postseason success that they've had. You could talk about resources, comparatively and things like that at their different stops here, but Musselman's made 2 Elite Eights in the semi-recent future here, 3 Sweet 16s in that time frame. I think what he did at Nevada is like kind of crazy and going to be hard for anybody to recreate. And I really enjoyed those teams. They were a little weird at the end at Arkansas. First year at USC was a little tough. You mentioned the West Coast thing. I like a lot more what they're doing this summer. I'm also a Rodney Rice homer, so that probably biases me here a little bit, but just a little too much to pass up on with Muss there.
Yeah, I think we had the same sort of tiering system with this based on how the board is broken. Muss was the only other name before Buzz that I was even considering, and it was a true coin flip for me between them because I think Muss is like wildly volatile, and I think that would drive me insane as a fan. Sure. But you're right, he just has more upside. If it hits, there's Final Four level upside with him in a way I don't think there has been with Buzz historically. This is where I take Buzz Williams. I think pretty firmly he's a top half of the Big Ten coach. And I think if anybody else was taken above him, it would be a mistake. But I do think we got through 8 guys that just have proven they have a little more upside than him with their teams.
Yeah, if we were talking like maybe post Marquette run, I might have had like a slightly different answer for you. Just things have tapered off just enough that I think that's where you get like the guards and guys like that have kind of maybe jumped into that next tier above him. But I pulled the stat from the Maryland bio that they had for him. I thought was interesting. For his age, 52, and number of years as a head coach, 18, Williams is the active leader in total victories and ranks number 2 in NCAA tournament games and tournament victories. It's the most random stat I've ever seen anyone pulled because how many 52-year-old coaches have 18 years of head coaching experience? So shout out to whatever intern pulled that number. But yeah, you got to have Buzz in the top half here at a minimum. And if somebody wants to nitpick and have him somewhere 7, 8, 9 ahead of 9, you know what I mean? Like a couple of spots higher, I wouldn't argue with you, or maybe a spot or 2 lower. But
I don't think I would have been mad up to 6th, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the Painter, Dusty, Underwood, Izzo, Altman are like pretty much non-negotiable. But if you want to talk me into Buzz Williams over Mick Cronin, I would have been like, yeah, sure.
Yep. No, I'm with you there too. Also just better dressed than a lot of those guys. I feel like you got to get a few points for that too. Just the 3-piece suit, gets you a little extra here. Okay. This is where it gets really weird for me at this point because it's just a totally different set of criteria. I think you need to kind of stack these next couple guys up. This is probably not the best move because there's just not a whole history of success here, but big Nico Medved guy here, just from like an X's and O's standpoint. I think he's going to coach circles around a lot of these guys. And I think Minnesota is going to be like sneaky good this year. I mean, relative to what Minnesota does, most years. And I don't even think Ben Johnson's a bad coach. I think that just says a lot about what Medved will do. And he just literally gave Maryland the business in a round of 32 game last year. So I don't think Maryland fans could have watched that and thought, wow, this guy's a dummy. So I'm going to go Medved here at 10.
I'm very curious to see what happens because I think in a lot of ways, Minnesota in this era, in this conference, can be a job that makes great coaches look horrible.
That's a good point.
And I think Richard Pitino is a good sign of that. I think that guy can coach his butt off, and it just didn't work at Minnesota. So I agree. Everyone seems to love Nico as a person and an offensive mind for sure. And I'm rooting for him to make Minnesota a factor in this league. God, I have this whole next tier. It's like breakout new hires versus another high floor guy. And I'm going to take the high floor guy. I think I like Chris Collins here. I part of it is that I've just loved some of the personnel. Like Boo Boo, he's one of my favorite players ever. I think Martinelli and Barnheiser were objectively awesome these last couple of years. He has a low floor because he was nearly fired after his first start at Northwestern. But I think he has done more with less than pretty much anyone in the league lately. And you look at the guys Indiana, Iowa, even Washington have hired. I think all of those schools would take a Chris Collins level outcome in these last 3 or 4 seasons. So, yeah, give me Chris.
Those were the two I was between. Ultimately, I haven't seen Medved do it at this level, and Collins, it's just hard to argue that he's made it work. So I'm all good with that one. Again, gonna go with one of the new upstarts here. Just give me Ben McCollum. The dude's got more national titles than anyone in this conference. He's got more national titles this century than 4 times as many than the whole Big Ten. So just give me McCollum here to kind of make it work at Iowa. And I think there's like a sneaky good chance that that's a job that he can make like look better than it's looked the last couple of years under Fran. So we'll give him a try.
Yeah, it was between him and my next pick, which is Darren DeVries. And I can live with getting DeVries over McCollum, mostly because from just what I've seen from interviews, I like DeVries' silence more than Ben McCollum's arrogance, to be honest. But I don't know. When you win at the level that Ben McCollum has won, it makes sense to be arrogant. In a lot of ways, I feel like he could be the Kurt Signetti of this league on the basketball side. And
nice.
Back for Indiana, DeVries is an interesting hire because I don't think Indiana fans would have loved that name if right when they fired Mike Woodson, they were told this was the guy. But after hearing a bunch of their primary targets were not interested, I think they were very happy to get Darren DeVries. He's clearly competent. I don't know if he has the gusto to work in Bloomington, but
that's what I worry about too.
Yeah, but I don't know. Just as like if you dropped him back on West Virginia, I would feel really good about this spot here.
I'd like to see a little more track record of him without Tucker. I know he did that largely this year, but it took Javon Small going like supernova for a large stretch of the year to kind of help them overachieve. I just feel gross taking any of the next couple of guys, to be honest with you. It's just it's a weird hodgepodge of just sort of different people. Before this past year, I probably would have gone Peichel pretty comfortably and not worried about it, but it's just hard after not making that work even a little bit. You know what? Give me Hoiberg. Not a big Hoiberg guy typically, but Nebraska has also been kind of a do more with less situation. They do have a really good home court advantage that helps them out there a bit, but I feel like he'll get them to like tournament adjacent at the very least, no matter what.
Most handsome coach in the league too. That's got to be worth points at this point. And
absolutely,
no, I will say we did our Big 10 road trip a couple of years ago, and we saw 10 games in person. We drove all around the conference, and after seeing a lot of these coaches up and close and personal, like that was the first Edey year, and Purdue was awesome, #1 team in the country. And the game plan that Hoiberg put together to frustrate Zach Edey was just better than anybody else I saw in the league do it. He has some stuff defensively that he doesn't get a lot of credit for that is unorthodox, and it works. So I think that's a good pick. And I think he honestly could have gone higher on this list, and I wouldn't have been too upset about it. So good value there. I hate this group, man. I really do. I'm going to take Danny Sprinkle and hope that there's at least a little bit of upside there. But I despised what he did with last year's roster, just throwing all that money at Osibor. This offseason's been pretty good on paper, I think, for Washington, but I'm still a skeptic in general. But you mentioned it with Peichel. It's like you're taking Sprinkle or Peichel here, and at least it feels like there's hope for Sprinkle after last season.
I got to see them coach in person in a game at Santa Clara, and I had no idea who Danny Sprinkle was in his 1 year there at Utah State. I was just like, well, everyone at Utah State works out, but Sprinkle killed it. That team was great, so no argument there. I think I got to go Peichel at this point. Like, he's probably the guy most likely to get fired of this group, next season if it doesn't go particularly well for them. I don't like what they've got really lined up so far from what I've seen, but their defense will be at least a reasonable amount good if he's got like older guys on the team. So give me Peichel, and I'll just feel kind of dirty doing it.
It's the right pick too. I mean, we've seen him have very successful years in this conference. We know he can do it. I think a departure from what he tried last year could help him. Just take the team no one expects anything from and grind your way through the league. I won't be surprised if he bounces back. All right, we're left with the two I wanted absolutely nothing to do with, and I'll take the one I could at least live with myself having in my group. That's Mike Rhodes. At least he's got an identity, and there's something going on here. I think I left you with the definitive worst coach in the league, though.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, he did have like a strong interim stretch there, where he got a couple wins. So maybe there's some buy low opportunity. I don't even know how to sell that. Yeah, I think any list you put together, even Jake Diebler would have to, if he was being honest with himself, probably put himself 18th on the list here. It's tough sledding for the.
Which is kind of wild because, like, truthfully, Ohio State is never going to finish last in an 18-team Big Ten under him. But you look at the names on the team, and they just should be so much better than Jake Diebler has them at. It's crazy.
Yeah, they kept a couple good dudes there that wanted to play for him too, which maybe says something about him. But yeah, just between the two, at least Rhodes has some track record here. So that's what I'd go with. Greg, wanted to get you out of here in a half hour, so right about that mark. Thank you for doing this. And if anybody wants more amazing Big Ten and overall NCAA college basketball coverage here, please tell people where they can find Sleepers Media if they're not already and they're missing out.
Absolutely, man. This was really fun. I'd love to do it. So Sleepers Media is where you can find us at Sleepers Media. Our YouTube channel is where we are posting like 15 to 20 videos a day. We got the Sleepers podcast 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts. But really the bulk of what we do these days is 10 to 11 reactionary videos a day to the latest and greatest in college hoops. As you mentioned, we're a very Big Ten centric show, but we do our best to expand and cover outside of that as well. So again, thanks for having me, man. I'm a fan of yours as well. And this was really fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys talking about the under 19 team, by the way. I've been like desperately trying to find reactions to that and no one's talking about it. So you guys have been saving me for that. All right, everybody, if you're watching this, hit that little like button on YouTube for us, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And remember to fear the podcast.